I think you are well aware that we are not isolating ourselves from the West, nor are we building walls, not only in a portable sense, but also in a real sense, as is happening now on the border with the Russian Federation, some members of the North Atlantic Alliance. We are not dividing the world into blocks. I have touched on this topic, and we are not declaring that those who disagree with us will be punished. All of this is at the initiative of our Western colleagues. And I won't repeat in detail, it's already, they have now sort of a part of the genetic code. After 500 years of world domination, after that long period when they showed total disrespect for the great civilizations that existed before the West began to command the globe, referring to Ottoman civilization, Chinese civilization, Indian Arabs. Broadly speaking, our Western colleagues don't want to build any bridges with bricks. They just use them to build walls, as you said, and try to hit people in the head who don't listen to them. But I have said that we are not closing ourselves to the West, but he must understand that since he is acting, nothing will work except continued confrontation, continued process within the framework of the BRICS countries, within the framework of other integration associations that will protect the rest of the world from the atrocities and aggression of the Western masters of the international market. But in order to build a bridge here, we and the People's Republic of China built a bridge across the Amur River, and we gave you half of our own. But before we start building, we need to stand aside. The same process has begun. Build your half in the hope that one day it will come in handy. In my opinion, in general, this is not a very productive waste of physical and mental strength. The West has built a wall between itself and the rest of the world. If he wants to, he can knock it down. He will support it, explain to us the conditions under which he is willing to return to the civilized world and civilized communication. And we will see, when we say that we regard the nuclear arsenals of NATO members as a single arsenal, we mean, first of all, at some stage, the United States, when they undermine all the basic prerequisites for a treaty, I will allow it. Strategic offensive weapons want to convince us that the war they are waging against the Russian Federation at the hands of Ukrainians should not prevent the resumption of dialogue on strategic stability. Well, among the other arguments we gave our American colleagues, we explained that this is impossible when Russia is declared the target of the entire North Atlantic Alliance and the enemy that needs to be attacked. Strategic defeat on the battlefield. Besides, we said, we are considering it now after the entire North Atlantic Treaty Organization united against us. We will not succeed soon until we resume the discussion of strategic stability, and we will not be able to take into account the nuclear arsenals of France and Britain, which are at the forefront of NATO members in anti-Russian operations. That's how it all happened. As for the arsenals of the People's Republic of China, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and the strategic arsenals of the Russian Federation, we are not united in any way. And in that sense, the only thing I can say in response to your question is that all three countries are declared targets of the aggressive policy of the United States and its allies. This applies to, well, Russia, not the Chinese people, the Chinese People's Republic. We see the situation around Taiwan in the South China Sea escalating. They provoked China to make a sudden move, and on the Korean peninsula, we saw the formation of alliances with South Korea and Japan. They are conducting exercises, including increasingly introducing nuclear components into these exercises. So the situation is not the same, I will say so, but what we are talking about is categorically against acting. Nuclear provocation, nuclear cards. The president made this convincing point in a recent speech at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. Our colleagues from Asia, Africa, and Latin America often call on us. We call on Russia. As a negotiator, President Putin has repeatedly commented on the topic. We are not only ready for negotiations, we completed them in Istanbul in April 2022 and have already initialed them, a document that allows for the end of hostilities. Well, as you know, the Ukrainian participants themselves admitted that they were forbidden to do so by the British, the Americans, and others. We will call the puppet masters directly, but I would like to draw the attention of those who are now trying to promote some initiative to start the negotiation process. The first two may be key situations. Don't forget what, on September 22nd, Zelensky signed a decree banning all Ukrainian officials from negotiating with Vladimir Putin's government. In early May this year, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine does not recognize Vladimir Putin as a democratically elected legitimate president, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in an official statement. Second, those who show and promote initiatives say the right thing about the indivisibility of security, the inadmissibility of bloc creation, and the need to understand the root causes. They should develop their methods, fully consider what is happening in Ukraine. The complete prohibition of Russian by law is a serious violation of all conceivable international conventions on the rights of national minorities. Russian is forbidden in the fields of education, media, culture, and daily communication. There, you can get into big trouble by calling a salesperson or waiter in Russian. But there's another point in general that it echoes. Just said, this is the consolidation of legislation and the implementation of practice. The theory and practice of outright Nazism, including glorifying those sentenced by the Nuremberg Tribunal at this time. Comrades, our different countries. The negotiation process is provided from the bottom of my heart. Sometimes it sounds like, let's just stop fighting and start talking. Is that right? The demand for respect for the rights of any ethnic minority, especially the Russian minority in Ukraine, is some kind of artificial precondition. I don't think so. We have to get it back. The Ukrainian regime is legal. The legal realm in which all other responsible and decent members of the international community live. We've talked about this topic. The President has talked about it more than once. And I think the realization that it's just like that. Make up for this situation and sit at the negotiating table as if nothing had happened. That's not right, especially since No one in the West has been with you for a few days, and the advertised contacts don't want to notice this. Nazi-Russophobia, melee, effect, which is the order that this pattern creates. Moreover, the West not only did not want to notice this, but directly encouraged the maintenance of this nature of the Ukrainian state in order to further use the Kiev regime in the war against Russia. Well, in fact, the goal is the same as Hitler's. And before that, Napoleon? Collect all of Europe and accordingly to defeat the Russian people and the Russian state. I find it unacceptable that innocent people are sacrificed to save them. Not hundreds of other people who are not at fault. And, of course, this process, because, for example, the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, as well as Qatar, Egypt, Jordan, they took part in the negotiations in various forms, including the release of hostages. We have also participated in this work not only for Russian citizens, but also for citizens of other countries. And these efforts have brought some results. This group of mediators between Hamas and Israel probably understands better than others what challenges remain in order to resolve the situation peacefully. As I said, our position has been stated many times, including in the draft resolutions of the United Nations Security Council: immediate ceasefire, indefinite ceasefire. Release all hostages and all Palestinians held in Israel. It is imperative to solve urgent humanitarian problems. We have held talks in Moscow to resume negotiations on the establishment of a Palestinian state at will. Palestinian meeting, we've done it many times. The last time was at the end of January and the beginning of February this year. All Palestinian factions, including Hamas and Fatah, attended the meeting, and the meeting ended for the first time. The event culminated in the adoption of a joint statement in which, for the first time, all parties, including Hamas, expressed their willingness to unite the Palestinian ranks on the basis of the platform of the Palestine Liberation Organization. The reason why our previous initiatives to restore Palestinian unity have not been achieved is that there is only one Palestine. It can be a negotiating partner aimed at achieving maximum needs. As long as the Palestinians are scattered, the direct result is unlikely, because now that there are no Palestinians, they are starting to figure out what to do next with the gas. Either establish some kind of Arab protectorate there, or introduce some kind of peacekeeping force, or artificially declare that this will be territory which runs the Palestinian National Authority. These are all initiatives imposed by outside actors, and the Palestinians themselves are still doing so. In a dispersed state, B depends on different external sponsors. Our idea is to bring together all the outside sponsors, all the countries that influence, fund, and help the various Palestinian factions in some way, and agree that there will be no disagreement between these outside players, and let them unite. Well, they called on the Palestinians. Do not take advantage of the existing nuances of the positions of external actors in order to speak with one voice in negotiations, including seeking recognition of their legitimate rights at the United Nations. We will continue to be ready to do this work. But now you see that every effort is being made to stop the tragedy. But once it happens, as I said, it is the most important part of our long-term path in this direction. will support the movement for the establishment of a Palestinian state in full compliance with United Nations resolutions.